Do you ever wonder why silence can feel more deafening than noise? Why sometimes, when your body is quiet and still, it seems to scream a message no words can capture? Society teaches us to fear silence, that calm before the storm, the pause between moments, the stillness of a woman's body that's often mistaken for emptiness or weakness. But what if I told you that silence isn't a sign of absence? What if it's the most powerful, most profound whisper your soul has ever made? The truth is, behind every silent moment, there's a deep, sacred story waiting to be heard. A message from within, calling you back to yourself. And many women are beginning to recognize that this silence isn't a void, but an invitation, an opening for transformation, an awakening of something ancient and wild that's been buried beneath layers of conditioned beliefs and societal expectations. Today, I want you to deeply consider this. What if your quietness is actually a portal, a gateway to the core of your being? Because, historically, silence has always been a space where the most profound revelations occur. It's in that stillness, when the body no longer seeks external validation, that the soul begins to speak louder than ever. It's in that pause that we reimagine ourselves, rediscover our truths, and reconnect with our ancient instinctual wisdom. Think of your body as a sacred temple, a cathedral that has been filled with the noise of the world, with the clamor of validation, achievements, and superficial desires. But what happens when you choose to silence the external chaos? You begin to strip away the distractions and step into the sanctuary of your own soul. Suddenly, the external bombardment dims, and what remains is an open space, vast, quiet, and brimming with potential. That space is alive, vibrant, and waiting to be explored. You see, society trains us to believe that a woman's worth is measured by her ability to be desired, to be seen, and to constantly seek external approval. But Jung, one of the greatest psychological thinkers, taught us that everything we repress, what we deny within ourselves, inevitably returns, often in ways we least expect. When you suppress or ignore your inner voice, it doesn't disappear. Instead, it manifests as fate, as patterns you can't seem to break. And so the silence we resist can be the very thing that holds the key to our liberation. It's not a void, it's a space, an empty vessel waiting to be filled with new meaning. Think of it like a mirror. When you stop projecting your desires outward, you finally get to see your true reflection. And what you see in that reflection is not the person society told you to be. It's the authentic, unfiltered version of yourself. Powerful, mysterious, wild. In this silence we find signs, subtle signals that point us back to our essence, recurring dreams that feel too vivid to ignore, sensations of déjà vu, unexplainable, shifts in mood, or a deep sense that something is awakening inside. These aren't coincidences. They are your inner compass, guiding you toward a deeper understanding of who you truly are. Let me give you an analogy. Picture a river flowing beneath the surface of a calm lake. On the surface, everything appears still. The water is motionless, silent. But beneath, the currents are fierce and unstoppable. That hidden flow is your unconscious mind, your innate wisdom, your archetypal energy, waiting patiently for you to quiet the surface so it can rise and transform everything. And that's what silence does. It allows the currents of your inner world to rise, your suppressed feelings, your hidden memories, your deepest desires, so they can be seen, felt, and integrated. Think of the process like tending to a garden. When you stop constantly plucking the weed and instead allow the roots to be nourished in silence, a new, vibrant growth emerges. Now, how do you recognize these signs? Often, they show up as recurring themes in your dreams, a sense of unease in certain relationships, or an inexplicable longing for something just out of reach. You may notice a shift in your energy, feeling more sensitive, more intuitive, more aware of your inner landscape. These are all messages from your soul trying to get your attention. You might wonder, how can something so silent be so powerful? The answer lies in understanding that energy flows most freely when it isn't blocked by external noise. Jung taught us that silence is not absence. It's the very ground where the seed of transformation is planted. It's the fertile soil where your authentic self can take root and blossom. Imagine a woman who, through her silence, begins to reconnect with her instincts, her primal, instinctual voice that society has taught her to suppress. She starts to see symbols everywhere, in her dreams, in her body's sensations, in the subtle ways her energy shifts. These symbols aren't random. They're guides pointing her toward her true purpose. And here's the truth. This process is accessible to every woman willing to listen. It's simple, yet profound. The language of the soul is not spoken in words, but in presence. In the quiet moments, when you stop trying to control everything, you invite the universe to speak through. Jung called this a bridge, a sacred connection between the conscious mind and the depths of the unconscious. So, I invite you now to be curious. What does your silence want to tell you? What symbols are appearing in your life? What recurring feelings or dreams are whispering truths you've been ignoring? These messages are not accidents. They are your soul's way of guiding you back home. Before we move into the next phase of this journey together, remember this. Your silence is not a flaw, but a gift. It's a sacred space where your true power is being nurtured. And that power, once awakened, can never truly be extinguished. Now, if this resonates with you, I encourage you to stay with this journey. Share this message with someone who needs to hear that her silence is her strength. And don't forget, subscribe to the channel so you can continue exploring the depths of your soul together, because this is just the beginning. The real transformation begins when you recognize that silence isn't an end, it's a beginning. A sacred invitation to reconnect with the wild, intuitive, infinite force that resides within you. If this message resonates with you, take a moment to reflect on what your silence is trying to reveal. Share this with someone who needs to hear that silence is a gateway, not a void. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because your journey inward is the most powerful path you'll ever walk. Stay tuned for the next part, where we'll explore how this silence transforms not just your mind, but the very core of your being. Remember, your true power begins when you listen to what your soul is whispering. Imagine for a moment that your quietness is not just a pause, but the beginning of a rebirth, a quiet revolution happening within. Many women feel it but struggle to articulate what it truly means. This deep inner urge to retreat, to withdraw from the chaos of the external world, and to turn inward. It's almost as if the soul is preparing for a monumental change, a shift so profound that the outside world might never fully understand it. What most fail to realize is that these signs, those subtle shifts in energy, those unexplainable episodes of introspection, are not accidents. They are the language of your inner self, the silent whispers of your divine blueprint trying to realign with your deepest purpose. These signals are like sacred breadcrumbs leading you back to your true essence, your wild, instinctual self, that society has forced into silence for centuries. Many women describe this phase as feeling lost, invisible, or even forgotten. The outward identification with being a wife, a lover, a mother, these roles can become so ingrained that they overshadow the authentic core of who they are. But beneath all of that, beneath the layers of societal expectation, there is an undeniable truth. A call to remember that they are more than their roles. They are vessels of ancient wisdom, carriers of a divine feminine energy that has been suppressed. Now, let's explore some of the signs that often go unnoticed, yet carry the deepest messages. First and perhaps most compelling are the dreams. Vivid, intense dreams about mysterious symbols, ancestral images, or recurring figures. These dreams are not just random. They are the language of your subconscious, tapping into collective archetypes, revealing truths long buried beneath layers of conditioning. When you start paying attention to your dreams, you will notice a pattern, symbols from nature, ancient landscapes, or mythological figures that resonate deeply within your soul. These aren't coincidences, but signposts, guiding you towards your inner mysteries. Second, shifts in energy and emotion. You might find yourself feeling unusually sensitive, as if every subtle change in your environment or the mood of others affects you profoundly. Sometimes you will notice bursts of intense creativity or inspiration alongside waves of inexplicable melancholy. These fluctuations are the dance of your inner energy shifting, resisting old patterns and welcoming the emergence of a new self. The more you surrender to this process, the clearer these signs become. You may also experience what Jung called synchronicities, meaningful coincidences that seem to guide you along an invisible path. For example, you might encounter a book, a phrase, or an artist that seems to have been chosen specifically for your current phase. These synchronistic moments aren't random. They are the universe's way of confirming that you are on the right track. Another profound sign is a deepening connection with nature. When you begin to withdraw from superficial engagements, nature starts to speak to you in whispers. The rustling of leaves, the shape of clouds, the flow of water, these become your allies, symbols carrying messages of transformation. The earth, in her silent wisdom, reflects your own unfolding process, shedding old layers, revealing new blossoms underground. Now, how do we access and interpret these signs? First, by cultivating presence, by giving yourself permission to simply be still and observe. Meditation, journaling, or walking in nature can help you tune into these signals more clearly. Think of yourself as an explorer navigating a mysterious land. Each symbol, each feeling, each image is a signpost pointing to your truth. And here's a crucial point. Understanding these signs isn't about forcing meaning or trying to control the process. Instead, it's about surrendering and allowing the wisdom of your body and soul to reveal itself. When you honor your inner whispers, be they dreams, sensations, or flashes of insight, you start to access a power much greater than your conscious mind. The pathway of transformation is about embracing the archetype of the sacred feminine, the wild woman that Jung described as the bridge between consciousness and the deep, shadowed waters of the unconscious. This energy is not tame, not predictable. She's fierce, intuitive, raw, and profoundly compassionate. When a woman consciously reconnects with this archetype, she begins to embody her true strength. Not the strength that society teaches, battle-hardened, controlling, but the fierce grace of surrender, receptivity, and unshakable inner knowing. Remember, every hero's journey through darkness begins with a recognition of what is hidden. Your silence, your retreat, isn't an end. It's a sacred space where the alchemy of transformation takes place. In that quiet, your inner fire is being stoked. And as Jung said, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. This process of inner alchemy is subtle but unstoppable. When you stop chasing external validation, you begin to feel the power of your own presence. It's a state of being where the need to prove yourself dissolves into pure existence. From this place, you become magnetic, not because you seek attention, but because your authenticity radiates from within. To deepen this understanding, I offer you a metaphor. Think of yourself as a lotus flower emerging from the muddy waters. At first you are submerged, hidden beneath layers of fear, doubt, and societal conditioning. But as you withdraw and quiet your restless surface, the roots grow deeper. Eventually, a luminous blossom appears, pure, resilient, and unafraid to show its true face. This phase, the inner turning, can be uncomfortable, even painful. You may encounter moments of despair or loneliness that seem unbearable. These are signs you're shedding the old skins, layers of identity, fears, and beliefs that no longer serve. Jung called this the confrontation with the shadow, the parts of ourselves we suppress, reject, or deny. It's where true growth begins. This period of darkness is where the hidden treasures lie, your suppressed talents, insights, and your divine feminine power. When you courageously face this shadow, you reclaim your wholeness. You begin to see that silence isn't emptiness, but a fertile ground for something extraordinary to grow. And it's in this fertile silence that your authentic power starts to emerge, quiet, fierce, and unstoppable. You stop needing to be seen, loved, or validated by the external world, because your worth is rooted in the profound knowing of your own soul. That is true sovereignty, the unshakable inner strength that only comes when you have listened long enough to hear your own voice. So, I invite you to honor these signs. Trust your inner compass. Be patient as the silent whispers evolve into a resonant song. Because every moment of retreat, every shadow faced, every symbol understood, these are the building blocks of your rebirth. This is the power of the feminine archetype, waiting patiently to be reawakened. It's the force that Jung called a sacred link between the conscious mind and the deep unconscious depths that hold the keys to your true purpose. Remember, your silence is not a void. It's the sacred space where your soul gathers strength, prepares to blossom, and finally speaks in the language of the divine. As you listen, you will discover that the deepest transformation begins when words are no longer necessary. Your energy, your presence, and your essence become the revolution. Now, imagine a woman who, through her silent retreat, has begun to see herself in a new light, a light that's unfiltered, raw, and ablaze with truth. She has learned to listen not just to her mind, but to the whispering voice of her soul. From that quiet space, she has emerged with a clarity so profound that her entire existence begins to shift. She no longer seeks validation outside herself. Her worth is anchored in an unshakable core. This is the awakening, the moment when the silent, mysterious energy within her blossoms into the force of her true self. It's no longer about the need to be loved, admired, or chosen, because she has already discovered her own divine worth. She has broken free from the bindings of societal masks and superficial desires, stepping into a fearless authenticity that radiates from within. And here's the truth. When a woman recognizes her own silence as her power, everything changes. Her energy shifts, her relationships shift, her entire perception shifts. She begins to realize that the greatest love stories aren't written with another's approval. They are written with her own hand, in the language of presence and deep self-respect. This awakening is not just a personal victory, it's a radical act of rebellion against a world that constantly seeks to dilute her light. When she stops seeking, she begins to embody. She becomes a vessel of divine feminine energy, resilient, intuitive, unshakable. The craving for external validation diminishes, replaced by a steady flame that no one can blow out. Think about a fire. When it's fed from within, it burns brighter and more fiercely. It no longer needs to chase sparks from elsewhere. It radiates its own heat and light. That is the woman who has learned to listen to her inner voice, to trust her deepest instincts, and to stand tall in her own sovereignty. She is no longer dependent on external circumstances to define her worth. Her body, once a battleground of societal expectations, becomes a sacred altar. The silence it now holds is not emptiness. It is an offering, a ritual of reclaiming her power. Each silent breath, each still moment feeds the divine fire she's awakening. Her essence is no longer fragmented. It is whole, radiant, and pure. And in this wholeness, she begins to attract what truly resonates with her energy. A love that is conscious, beautiful, and reciprocal. But she no longer seeks love from a place of need. She gives love from a place of overflow. Because she knows that the most vital relationship she will ever have is the one she nurtures with herself. This is the moment where the woman fully understands. Her silence is sacred. It's a language that speaks without words, a communication of deep presence, of divine strength. It is in this silence that she finds her sovereignty, her purpose, her wildness. Now, I want you to imagine standing in front of a mirror, gazing into your own eyes. What do you see? Do you see someone who has learned the profound art of listening, someone who has touched the depths of her soul and refuses to turn away? Because that woman, your true self, is already alive within you, just waiting for you to honor her voice. It's easy to forget, especially in a world addicted to distraction, that real power resides in choosing yourself, in embracing your deepest truths, and in listening to the whispers no one else can hear. When you learn to inhabit your silence fully, you stop needing to compete, to prove, to chase after fleeting approval. You become magnetic, not for superficial reasons, but because your authenticity shines through. This is the moment of radical self-love, the moment when you realize that your greatest relationship is with yourself, and that self-love is not selfishness. It is the foundation of true relationships, true happiness, and true understanding. The woman who has crossed through her silence is a catalyst for change, not only in her life, but in the world around her. Because her silence has awakened a deep inner truth, that she is already complete, that her wholeness doesn't depend on outside validation, but emerges from within, and as she stands awakened in her power, she becomes a beacon of inspiration for others. The truth is, her silence has made her untouchable, not because she refuses connection, but because she refuses to settle for anything less than her radical truth. She embodies the embodiment of the divine feminine, the fierce, gentle, unstoppable force that refuses to diminish itself for fleeting approval. Now, this awakening is not without challenges. The path of transformation is layered with doubts, fears, and moments of loneliness. But every shadow faced, every silent tear shed, every moment of surrender is a step toward her higher self. And she knows that true strength is born in those quiet, difficult moments. In this new state of being, she realizes that her power does not lie in her circumstances or her possessions. It lies in her capacity to hold space, to love herself unconditionally, to honor her silence, and to trust that her inner light will guide her through even the darkest nights. So, I invite you now, remember that your silence is not a void. It's a vessel, an altar where your divine power can be reborn. Your worth isn't dictated by anyone or anything outside. You are the source. You are whole. You are enough. You are awakening to your true nature, an unshakable and radiant force, rooted in ancient wisdom and divine truth. And the moment you embrace your silence as your greatest gift, you unlock the most transformative, liberating journey of your life. When you realize that your body's silence is a language of its own, you step into a realm where love, power, and presence become one. A realm where you no longer seek validation, but embody divine sovereignty from the depths of your soul. And once you arrive at this truth, nothing can ever dim your light again. So, stand tall in your silence. Let your inner fire blaze. Trust in your process. And remember, your greatest power is already within you, in the sacred space where your soul whispers its most profound truths.